certain steps that you take to feel secure?
Okay, so as a rule, you'll always find some sharp object in my purse, which more often than not is a pair of scissors.
I usually carry a paper spray.
जब भी बाहर जा रही हूँ तो मैं आइसोलेटेड सी जगह पे ना जाऊँ, हमेशा भीड़ भाड़ वाली जगह पे रहूँ.
ये मेरे दिमाग में है कि मैं कभी भी एक रास्ते में नहीं चलती हूँ. मुझे लगता है यार मेरे को रूट चेंज करने चाहिए. अगर मेट्रो स्टेशन से घर तक मैं वॉक करके आती हूँ तो मेरे पास 5 रूट्स हैं. These are my plan A, B, C, D.
बट फिर भी you're constantly looking over your shoulder कि यार भैया पीछे कोई आ रहा है. कोई नॉर्मली भी बंदा चल रहा होता है ना पीछे, तो एक बार के लिए मतलब वो इंस्टिंक्ट बन गया कि आप पीछे मुड़ के देखते हो.
I probably cover myself with a jacket when I'm in the metro.
मैं रैंडमली नकली कॉल करती हूँ और मैं किसी से ऐसे बात करने की एक्टिंग करने लगती हूँ.
Do you really think doing this makes you safe?
No, absolutely not.
No, that's the, I don't know, is that an irony?
नहीं.
होते हैं जो जानवर का दिमाग लेके पैदा होते हैं, उनको आप कहाँ सुधार सकते हैं?
So we cannot change the tendency of a man. So
सर मतलब क्यों नहीं चेंज कर सकते?
There's no shortage of situations on screen where men behave poorly with women, from harassing, catcalling, and stalking them, to saying casual sexist things.
तुम लड़के लोग सारा दिन मेकअप लगाती रहती हो, काम कब करते हो?
ये भी एफ1 देखती है. ये सुना इतनी फनी होती नहीं है, लेकिन तुम बहुत फनी हो.
वो मूड स्विंग्स वाला टाइम चल रहा होगा ना, इसीलिए.
तुम लोग वो फेमिनिस्ट टाइप्स के हो क्या?
तुम शादी के बाद भी ऑफिस जाती हो?
आज आप बिल मांग रही हैं, कल राइट्स मांगेंगी.
Indian media has long romanticized men who pursue women even after they say no, suggesting that a man's persistence and aggression reflect his love and passion and will be rewarded eventually. But for a second, try to put yourself in her shoes. Imagine you don't like it. A person who persists in the face of non-consent comes off as creepy and threatening. Their persistence doesn't feel like love or passion, but a potential danger. In some films and shows, when a man doesn't get what he wants or sees an opportunity, he attacks a woman. And why not? These situations reflect real life, don't they? But only some of these films and shows describe the man's thought process, or what conversations he had with his friends and colleagues that might have suggested that he could be inclined to commit an act of violence, or take what he wants. Investigators and activists like Tara Kaushal, Madhumita Pandey, Priyanka Dubey, and Smita Sharma, as well as academics and psychiatrists, have researched and written about why men attack and assault women in India specifically. Now, try not to get defensive here. I know it's not all men, but some, yes.
That's the fear that most women have. I'm not saying all men, but I'm walking on the street at midnight. I don't know which man.
And these men typically don't feel remorse, but rather blame the women for, quote, inviting or, quote, deserving the attack, if you can believe that.
अंग प्रदर्शन होएगा तो भैया अच्छे का दिल मचल जाता है.
इतनी बड़ी कच्ची पहन के घूमती है, बताओ.
पहले जब ऐसे कपड़े नहीं थे तो बलात्कार कहाँ होता था?
नहीं. पहले नहीं होते थे.
Of course, that's horrible, especially if you put yourself in her shoes. But there are things we can do to address this wrong understanding in our society.
हमें बचपन से सिखाया जाता है कि ये सब चीज़ों को अनदेखा करना. But then I thought अगर ये कोई अपना होता तो?
मेरे लिए कॉन्शियंस की बात है. हम ऐसे इग्नोर कैसे कर सकते हैं?
Indian men in particular have an important role to play in stopping violence against women. Candidly, I believe it will never be enough for women to protest gender-based violence. We need men to do the same in overwhelming numbers. About 86% of lower chamber and I believe 87% of upper chamber parliament members in India are men. If enough male citizens speak up in favor of meaningful legislation and the elimination of gender-based violence and intervention around gender equality, it could signal to Indian governments, who again are mostly men, that this issue is urgent and systemic change is universally desired across the subcontinent.
So many things have happened that we are just like, अरे एक और, अरे एक और, अरे एक और. We have all become desensitized.
When it is us, we expect others to do something about it. Then why not do the same for others?
वायलेंस को देख के आंखें बंद कर ले हम. ये कैसी दुनिया है?
Which brings me to my next point. What can men do in their daily lives to correct other men's understanding of women and teach men that violence against women is wrong? In 2022, the mayor of London launched the Have a Word campaign, which encouraged men to reflect on their own views about gender and stop their friends from thinking or doing inappropriate things to women.
No, she ghosted me. Probably wouldn't know a good thing if it slapped her in the face. Someone I'd gladly do if I see her again. Mate, what did I do now?
Stop! Just stop, man.
saying the word mate to interrupt a friend's misogynistic remarks is meant to be an accessible communication tactic for men to call out sexism and correct their friends' wrong understanding before it gets worse.
A lot of us as blokes don't have that conversation.
Yeah.
Like we don't have it at all. We're just like, oh, you know, he's a problem. He doesn't mean anything by it. And it's like, but maybe he does.
तुम्हें पता है तुम्हारी बॉयज व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप में किस तरह की बातें चलती हैं? तुमने कभी लिखा कि ब्रो दिस इज नॉट ओके? नहीं लिखा। तुम्हें पता है तुम्हारा दोस्त अपनी गर्लफ्रेंड को मारता है, पर तुम तब भी उसकी साइड लोगे क्योंकि वो तुम्हारा बेस्ट फ्रेंड है और उस लड़की की सेफ्टी से ज्यादा जरूरी तुम्हारे लिए तुम्हारा भाईचारा है।
Whenever you see anything like that, you throw them a mate and you let your friend know if they carry on behaving like that, they're not going to be your mate much longer, okay?
Indian men can adopt their own version of this tactic by saying, Yaar, bas karo, something like that.
All of us have to take responsibility. It's not okay to just say, I'm a good guy.
We are defined as good men, as well-meaning men, as righteous men, and we can wear that tag, that label, that title, and not be invested in the well-meaning of other people. Yeah. As long as we individually are not hurting anyone,
that's right.
Right? We are well-meaning men, good men, and we can stand by and watch atrocities happen to other people and not intervene, not teach others not to. We cannot challenge that behavior and not lose any of our status.
We're the bystander within our group, and we have the greatest responsibility. So if I have power, I want to use it for that.
I really believe that we, the majority of men who don't perpetrate violence against women and girls, we're at more fault in some respect than the men who do, because they can't do it without our permission.
Gentlemen, please take this seriously and notice when your friends and colleagues say or do misogynistic things. Speak up and steer them toward right understanding. It doesn't need to be confrontational or complicated. Simply saying, dude, stop, or yaar, bas karo, could be enough.
Why do you always do that? Why do you always talk about girls in such graphic terms? Huh?
It could help condition your friends to think differently and realize that objectifying, harassing, and disrespecting women isn't okay. It's lame and stupid.
And if we can get to the place where men who act out in sexist ways will lose status, young men and boys who act out in sexist and harassing ways towards girls and women, as well as towards other boys and men, will lose status as a result of it, guess what? We'll see a radical diminution of the abuse, because the typical perpetrator is not sick and twisted. He's a normal guy in every other way.
By calling out your male friends and colleagues, you could help stop a future act of violence from happening. It would also be great if you marched with us, spoke up to policymakers, and helped us educate the next generation of boys about gender equality, respect, and male self-esteem.
एक तो हम लड़कियों को बोलते हैं कि रेप ना होने दो, लेकिन लड़कों को हम ये नहीं बोलते हैं कि रेप ना करो.
Organizations like Breakthrough, the Equal Community Foundation, the Men Engage Alliance, and several others are working to educate Indian boys, young men, and sometimes even their family members about these topics, to challenge gender stereotypes, and allow boys and men to see female struggles as part of their own. These organizations do excellent work. They measure their impact using studies and theories of change, which are evaluation tools used in philanthropy, the nonprofit space, and even impact investing. It's really, really interesting. I encourage you to check them out. I hope you all become more active role models for your peers and boys in your family who look up to you. We need you in this fight. Recognize your power to influence how society thinks and behaves.
We keep saying culture and society, but we are culture and society. We are agents of culture and society. We are agents of change.
Part of being a man is being a good person, treating everyone with respect.
अगर लड़के सही सोचेंगे तो लड़कियों को अपने आप सेफ फील होगा.
We will likely talk much more about masculinity on this channel, but let's start here.
We need more men who have the courage and the strength to start standing up and saying some of this stuff. And standing with women, not against them, pretending that somehow this is a battle between the sexes and other kinds of nonsense. We live in the world together.
Given तो ये है ही शायद कि जब गवर्नमेंट कुछ नहीं करती, जब आपके आसपास की सोसाइटी कुछ नहीं करती, तो इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे कुछ तो शायद करना पड़ेगा ना.